Good morning, colleagues, dear participants. Welcome to the South-South Exchange, the virtual roundtable that we are convening today on identifying priority actions in Asia and the Pacific. Thank you very much for your time and for your participation today. Thank you also very much for renaming yourself and being on standby for what promises to be a very interactive exchange. You may kindly keep your microphone muted while not speaking. And if you wish to engage in the conversation, most kindly use the raise hand function. You are also, of course, welcome to leave comments and questions in the chat box. We are going to start the consultation now without further ado. It is my pleasure to invite our first opening speaker, Ms. Chai Chai. She is the Chief of the Gender Equality and Social Inclusion section of the Social Development Division at ESCAP. Ms. Chai Chai, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of ESCAP, a warm welcome to all the participants from governments and colleagues from UN agencies. We are delighted to co-convene this Beijing+30 virtual South-South exchange with UN Women. I'd like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to all the ESCAP member states that submitted national review reports and responded to the survey on Beijing+30 review. Our gratitude also goes to UN Women colleagues for their wonderful support in this process. The Beijing+30 review is a milestone opportunity for us to take stock of the state of gender equality and women's empowerment at the national, regional, and global levels, to reinvigorate our collective commitments and plan future actions. While our region has made a notable progress in the 30 years since the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action, critical implementation gaps are evident, and progress is uneven between different subregions, countries, and population groups. Furthermore, the megatrends facing the region, including climate change, digitalization, and demographic shifts, risk placing the goals of equality and empowerment further out of reach. In response, our actions and resources must be prioritized to accelerate progress in the areas where the largest gaps remain, capitalize on the key transitions to green, digital, and caring societies, and address cross-cutting issues that provide the foundation for achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. The need to accelerate progress is especially urgent among the region's least developed countries and small island developing states, which face additional challenges due to their unique vulnerabilities and circumstances. I'm pleased to see so many of you virtually present today. Collaborative South-South exchange among ESCAP states and member states and associate members offers an important modality towards making gender equality and empowerment of women and girls a reality. It is in this collaborative spirit of mutual learning and exchange that we are meeting here today to share progress, challenges, and promising practices with a view towards identifying priority actions ahead of the upcoming Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference on the Beijing+30 review in Bangkok. ESCAP is convening this ministerial conference in close collaboration with the UN Women. We are really looking forward to hearing about the progress you have made and your commitments for the future. We hope to see most of you at the conference, which will be convened from 19 to 21 November at the UN Conference Center in Bangkok. The conference has a rich and exciting program with a high-level panel, thematic roundtables, special event on the care economy, and a number of side events. Let's work together to drive positive change and foster collaboration towards achieving gender equality in Asia and the Pacific. ESCAP and the UN family stand ready to support all member states in these critical efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chai Chai, for your warm opening remarks. It is indeed a very opportune time for this collaborative virtual platform to convene. We are looking forward to everyone's active participation in the ensuing substantive discussions. But before we dive into the main segment of the program, it is my pleasure to introduce our colleague from the UN Women Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, Mr. Jamshed Kazi, who is the Senior Advisor for the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action process here in the Asia-Pacific region. Without further ado, Mr. Kazi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chane. Just a quick check to see that you can all hear me. If you can, just nod, Chane.
I am hearing you well. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good morning, distinguished participants, colleagues, partners. Together with our co-convener, ESCAP, and Ms. Sai Sai and her team, I'm honored to welcome you to this roundtable dedicated to identifying priority actions for advancing gender equality through South-South exchange in the Asia-Pacific. Your presence here underscores our shared commitment to enhancing women's empowerment across the region. I extend our gratitude to ESCAP for their collaboration in organizing this event and in their unwavering partnership in this important work. As we approach the 30-year milestone since the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, we find ourselves at a very critical juncture. While progress has been made, systemic barriers remain. Gender-based violence, economic inequality, and limited political participation continue to impact millions of women across our region. Approximately 3 in 5 employed women in Asia and the Pacific work in the informal sector, often without social protection. Women also perform 4 times more unpaid care work than men, frequently at the cost of their own health and prosperity. This roundtable provides a valuable opportunity to refine our strategies, share innovative approaches, and set a collaborative agenda that will guide us in the years to come. It also reflects our commitment to South-South cooperation as a powerful platform for learning, mutual support, and collaborative action. By coming together, we can exchange knowledge, adapt successful models, and forge partnerships that benefit all member states, helping us tackle existing and emerging challenges like climate change, digital transformation, and systemic inequalities that we know no country can face alone. These discussions will also inform the upcoming Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference, ensuring that our actions align with the priorities of the Beijing Platform for Action and the 2030 Agenda. As my colleague Ms. Sai Sai emphasized, the Beijing+30 review offers us a critical opportunity to assess the state of gender equality and renew our commitment at the national, regional, and global levels. South-South cooperation enables us to strengthen our responses to these challenges by building on each other's successes, adapting solutions to local contexts, and supporting countries, including least developed countries and small island developing states, in implementing actions to overcome unique vulnerabilities. UN Women, like ESCAP, is committed to supporting this important journey, and we are here to facilitate the exchange of ideas, best practices, and mutual learning. Together, we have the opportunity to not only strengthen gender-responsive policies, but also accelerate progress for women and girls in areas that resonate deeply across this region. Let us make today's discussion a meaningful step towards building a more inclusive, resilient, and gender-equal Asia-Pacific region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasi, for these very pertinent opening remarks as well. Our opening speakers have really set the scene for the next few hours. We are going to spend together very quickly an overview of today's program. We will have two substantive segments. The first one will look into ways in which we are seeking to accelerate progress for women and girls in all of the various priority areas of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And the second part is going to look into some of the emerging and cross-cutting themes in our analytical work leading up to this conference. We have identified in particular the green, the digital, and the care economies as important emerging agendas for our common future. We are also looking into cross-cutting issues such as gender data, gender norms, financing for gender equality, and otherwise partnership and collaboration. So in each of these two substantive segments, the structure will be the same. The Secretariat is going to start off with a brief overview presentation of some of the key analytical findings from our research over the past few years. And then we are going to have distinguished participants amongst us to share their perspectives and knowledge, their learning on a variety of issues related in the first segment to the priority areas, in the second segment to the emerging thematic and cross-cutting issues. And so here we have asked participants to take a look into some of the challenges, some of the solutions proposed, and some of the initiatives that are currently ongoing that may be scaled up, that may be replicated, and we can learn from across the Asia-Pacific region. And once we have concluded these two substantive segments, there is an opportunity for at least half an hour for us to brief with more information about the Ministerial Conference, which will take place from the 19th to the 21st of November. There are some administrative and logistical details as well. This is an opportunity to untie all those knots. So we are hoping it's going to be an interactive discussion, of course. Please do feel free to share all of your perspectives, any questions you may have, and also your good practices, of course. Without further ado, let's move into the first substantive segment of today's program, Session 1, Accelerating Progress for Women and Girls in the Priority Areas, the Critical Areas of Concern for the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. So I'm joined now by our colleague from ESCAP, Mr. Jonas Aisi. He is a social affairs officer with us, and he would like now to present the key takeaways from the analytical track of the regional review process, focusing on some of the critical gaps and the top priorities and actions most frequently reported by member states in our Asia-Pacific region. Mr. Aisi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Channe. Can you all see my screen well?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, to set the stage for today's discussions, I will share some key takeaways from the analytical work that we have been doing this year as part of the Asia-Pacific Regional Review. As you may know, the Beijing+30 Regional Review consists of 3 tracks: analytical, consultative, and intergovernmental. And today I will share a very short overview of the analytical track and its main products, which include 2 background papers that are issued ahead of the conference, as well as a regional synthesis report. And the synthesis report is a more in-depth publication on the progress and gaps in advancing gender equality and women's empowerment in the region, and will be launched during the Ministerial Conference in November. And these background papers and the synthesis report, they're underpinned by national review reports and survey responses by ESCAP member states, official data and statistics from UN system databases, reports published by UN entities and international organizations, as well as peer-reviewed literature, and also national UPR and CEDAW reports. And in response to the call to undertake national level reviews, 40 ESCAP member states responded to the survey, and 37 submitted a national review report by the cutoff date for inclusion in the analysis. And the information shared through the national reviews have fed into our analytical review, a regional analytical review, as well as the broader regional review, which will then in turn inform the global deliberations during CSW in New York. And to give you a brief overview of some of the key takeaways, the analytical review shows that despite progress being evident, the broad thematic areas where the need to accelerate progress is the largest include the areas of economic empowerment, political participation, and violence against women. And first, in terms of economic empowerment, gender power gaps persist, and gender disparities remain entrenched in the world of work in the region. Furthermore, effective social protection coverage remains low and inadequate for most in the region, and especially for women and girls. And second, in the area of power and decision-making, women remain underrepresented in leadership and decision-making roles across sectors and levels, including in both the public and private spheres. And third, violence against women remains alarmingly high in the region. In the next few slides, I'll share one key finding for each of these thematic areas, and also cover a few of counter responses that we've seen coming out of the national reports. So looking at women's economic empowerment, there's persistent gender gap in the region's labor markets, with women's labor force participation being far below men's. On average, for the region, the ratio between female and male participation is 60%, or with less than half of the region's working age women being part of the labor force. And in some sub-regions, such as South and Southwest Asia, the male participation rate is almost 3 times as high as the female rate, which brings down the regional average. And moreover, at the regional level, the gender gap in labor markets has actually widened in the last 30 years, as you can see by this by the light green line, which represents the regional average. And women's large share of unpaid care and domestic work is a key factor behind women's lower labor force participation rates. And to advance gender equality in labor markets in the region, the actions governments most often report having taken in the past 5 years include strengthening legal frameworks and their enforcement to prevent labor market discrimination, as well as improving financial inclusion, addressing sexual harassment, and using active labor market policies, among other important actions, as you can see here. Turning to the area of political participation and representation, while steadily increasing, the share of women in parliaments is just above 20% in the region, which is below the global average of almost 27%, and clearly remains a far way away from parity. What you can see from this graph is that women are not only underrepresented in parliaments, but across all branches of government, including executives and judiciaries, where progress lags even further behind. So to increase women's participation in public life and decision-making, the most frequently reported actions taken by governments in the past 5 years include collecting and analyzing data on women's participation, providing opportunities for capacity building of women leaders, and to a lesser extent, introducing temporary measures such as quotas. And over to the topic of violence against women. Despite limitations in available data, we can clearly say from the figures that are available that the prevalence of violence against women remains alarmingly high in the region. On average, at the regional level, it is estimated that around 1 in 8 women in reproductive age have experienced intimate partner violence in the preceding 12 months. This figure rising to 1 in 4 women over the lifetime. And these are likely to be underestimates. In the survey responses, the most common strategies reported by governments to prevent violence against women include raising awareness, creating safe environments, and promoting economic independence. Over now to the priorities for the next 5 years that we've seen coming out of the surveys. The 3 thematic areas highlighted in the previous slides are very much in line with the top priorities reported by governments, which include especially eliminating violence against women and girls, as well as quality education and training, women's entrepreneurship, and political participation and representation. And as you can see here, 85% of the countries that responded to the survey considered eliminating violence against women and girls a priority for the next 5 years. This is the last slide of my presentation. I will here touch upon some of the recommendations on the way forward to address the critical gaps that we've identified. So to advance women's economic empowerment and resilience, there is a need to invest in gender-responsive social protection systems, which involves shifting the perspective of social protection as a welfare expense and instead see it as an enabler for sustainable growth. Women's economic empowerment also depends on inclusive labor market measures that equip women with the relevant skills, create decent work, and turn care from a burden into an engine of job growth. Promoting entrepreneurial ecosystems that incentivize and enable women entrepreneurs to develop and grow their business is another key aspect of women's economic empowerment. To enhance women's representation and participation in leadership, there is a need to create a conducive environment for female participation and leadership through intentional reforms of political and governance systems, including by using quotas for female candidates and reserving seats for women in key institutions. There's also a need to break down occupational segregation in management and leadership through deliberate strategies and investments in norm-changing actions. To eliminate gender-based violence and strengthen women's access to justice, there is a need to further institutionalize action plans for prevention and response, and ensure that they set clear targets, are adequately resourced and subject to monitoring and accountability. There's a need to tackle technology-facilitated violence through research and the establishment of preventative regulatory systems and partnerships. And finally, another key aspect to address gender-based violence concerns violence in peace and security contexts, or addressing violence in peace and security contexts through collaborative actions as part of a holistic women, peace and security agenda that also highlight women and girls as active agents of change. That's the end of this overview, which barely scratches the surface of the very rich and detailed findings and recommendations of our analytical review. But I hope it has given an overview, quick overview of the critical gaps and provided some context for today's discussions. And in session 2 later today, my colleague Ting Shen will present an overview of the key emerging and cross-cutting issues affecting the region's gender landscape. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eissi, for this, yes, very succinct presentation encompassing a lot of data and analysis relating to the thematic areas of women's economic empowerment, political participation, and also violence against women. Before we move into the next part of this segment, where we will be inviting some speakers to share their progress, challenges, good practices, innovative approaches, and lessons learned, we would like to open the floor for any participants who wish to ask any questions. We would also like to encourage you to put your cameras on if you so wish, to make for a more interactive discussion. So I am looking together with my colleagues for any raised hands. I can see a few participants with the cameras turned on. Please, you may use the chat box, or you are welcome to use the raised hand functions on Zoom if you have any questions related to the content of the presentation by Mr. IC. We will have more opportunities as well to engage after the next part of this segment, which will focus on the on presentations by, we have more than 8 speakers, and we are going to ask all of you to please keep your presentations as succinct as possible, so that we can have some virtual roundtable discussions at the end of each segment here. But firstly, speakers related to women's economic empowerment, we are joined by representatives from Nepal, from India, from Tuvalu, and from Pakistan. And so it is now my pleasure to introduce Apa Shrestha Khanna, who is the head of Women Empowerment Division at the Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizen in Nepal. We are looking forward to hearing from you, Ms. Shrestha Khanna, on women's economic empowerment initiatives. I understand in particular related to women's entrepreneurship. We are looking forward to hearing on some of the promising practices and initiatives on the Women Entrepreneurship Credit and Educated Youth Self-Employment Credit in particular. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Moderator. Distinguished participant, ladies and gentlemen, I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizer of this esteemed forum. This platform provides a crucial opportunity to reflect on our shared aspiration, exchange best practices, and foster meaningful partnership to advance gender equality and women empowerment globally. Nepal remains steadfast in its commitment to the BPFA and the SDGs. We are resolute in pursuing inclusive and transformative change, recognizing women and girls as essential agents of development, peace, and prosperity. The implementation of BPFA in Nepal has achieved notable progress, but it has also encountered significant challenges. Several factors have influenced both success and shortcomings across critical areas, reflecting solutions to improve gender equality as well as the obstacles that remain. Insufficient funding for gender-specific initiatives and weak institutional framework undermine the effective delivery of services designed to empower women and girls. Economic disparities have further intensified gender inequality. Additionally, socio-cultural barriers, deep-rooted beliefs, social resistance to change, and persistent gender stereotypes continue to perpetuate discrimination. Let me briefly share Nepal's experience with financial inclusion. Women are heavily concentrated in the informal economy, facing limited access to credit, entrepreneurship opportunities, and leadership role in major financial institutions. Alongside economic exclusion, GBV remains a serious issue. Despite Nepal's robust legal and institutional framework, challenges such as domestic violence, human trafficking, and early marriage persist, especially in rural and marginalized communities. In response to GBB, the government is working to strengthen the enforcement of existing laws and institutional framework and to introduce umbrella legislation, especially targeting GBG. Talking about economic empowerment. Economic empowerment is the foundation of gender equality and sustainable development. It is a top priority for our government, which is committed to ensuring equal access to economic resources and promoting women participation in decision-making at all levels. Our strategic focus includes expanding access to economic resources through banking and microfinance program, cooperatives, and interest-subsidized loans to promote women entrepreneurship. Additionally, we are enhancing social safety net to ensure that women, especially those in the informal sector, have access to maternity benefit, pension, healthcare, and childcare services. Let me further share Nepal's experience in promoting women entrepreneurship and financial inclusion through initiative led by our central bank, NRB. The NRB provides various concessional loan facilities with interest subsidies to promote commercial agriculture, youth employment, women entrepreneurship, and support for marginalized ethnic groups. In the fiscal year 2023-24, concessional loan total Nepalese rupees 126.8 billion with Nepalese rupees 38.29 billion allocated to support women, that is 71,886 women-led ventures. This initiative is a vital part of NRB's strategy to address gender inequality in entrepreneurship. Nepal's thriving microfinance sector has also been instrumental in empowering women entrepreneurs, especially in rural areas. There are currently 5.99 million members in 77 microfinance companies. With 96% of members are being women, microfinance institutions provide small loan without collateral, enabling women to engage in small-scale business like farming, handicraft, and retail. The NRB has also launched the Financial Literacy Framework 2022, along with several programs focused on enhancing financial literacy for women. Despite numerous challenges, including COVID-19 pandemic and natural disaster, Nepal is gradually transforming its entrepreneurial landscape. Women in rural areas are increasingly engaging in micro-enterprises and cooperatives, supported by initiatives such as Nepal's Micro Enterprises Development Program. This program has assisted over 90,000 micro-entrepreneurs, with 70% being women. This adopts a comprehensive approach offering training, mentoring, and financial assistance, enabling women to develop essential business-like skills and build confidence in their entrepreneurial ventures. We firmly believe that multilateral cooperation and partnerships are essential to accelerate progress toward gender equality. Our collaboration with international organizations, development partners, and bilateral allies have strengthened institutional capacity, gender-responsive programming, and governance. We encourage the exchange of best practices on advancing gender equality and empowerment of women and girls, ensuring that our efforts are aligned with global standards and reflect local realities. In conclusion, let us unite in our effort to build a society where every woman can fulfill her potential, free from the constraint of poverty and discrimination. The transformative impact of our collective endeavors will not only uplift the life of the women in Nepal, but also contribute significantly to fostering a more just and equitable society of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shashtakana, for this very succinct progress update on some very exciting initiatives and legislative developments in Nepal. We appreciate very much your contributions to this discussion. And also it was exactly presentation in 5 minutes. And I would like to encourage everyone to stick to the 5-minute allotted time for presentations going forward so that we can hear from as many participants as possible. Thank you very much once again. It is now my pleasure to introduce Daya Shankar, the Director of the Ministry of Women and Child Development in India, who will be speaking on the topic of women-led development. I see we have already, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thanks, Ms. Saisai, for the very insightful inaugural address, and Mr. Asi for a very excellent presentation that captures the essence of the developments that took place in the Asia-Pacific region in the past 5 years. And I was seeing the presentation, and it was more or less reflecting also the priority areas for India. Now I would like to briefly inform you all about the India's concerns and the progresses that have been made in the last 5-10 years in the field of women economic empowerment. First of all, I would like to say that India has made a paradigm shift in the governance. We have now moved from women development to the agenda of women-led development, where the women are not the recipient of the development process, but they are active architects who participate in the conceptualization, design, monitoring of the measures that shape the India developmental trajectory towards the dream of realizing the vision of a developed nation as India completes 100 years of independence in 2047. This vision has been articulated very well by our Honorable Prime Minister, and the whole of government and whole of society approach. We are moving in the right direction. So I'll confine my present address to the topic of women's economic empowerment. So first of all, I would like to inform that in the current year's budget, we have a gender budget allocation of around $37 billion, which is more than 200% decadal increase. And there are more than 42 ministries and departments of the central government that are participating in the gender budget exercise. Currently, the India labor force participation stands at around 40%. Though there were certain setbacks during the pandemic, and there were job losses reported and loss of livelihood. But I am happy to share that those have been already, we have recovered from that phase, and we are on a path of progress, and women's participation is also increasing in a quite satisfactory manner. This has been made possible because of several initiatives of the government, which included the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which is, I should say, that one of the world's largest financial inclusion programs. And I'm happy to share that more than 287 million women have opened their bank accounts and in the banks. And during the pandemic, around 31,000 crore Indian rupees were transferred in their bank account directly to help and support them. We have the schemes like Stand Up India, under which every bank of the India has been mandated to provide loans, microcredit facilities to at least one women entrepreneur. And I'm happy to share that around 80% of the beneficiaries under this Stand Up India program are the women. We have another very successful initiative of Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, which is one of the biggest financial inclusion program and microcredit facility program. And under this, in Indian rupee term, up to rupees 10 lakh, which has been increased in the current year's budget to 20 lakh, and given to the entrepreneurs to set up their own enterprise. And here also, again, 69% of the persons who have availed the microcredit facilities are women. led or women-owned enterprises. We have another very successful scheme of Pradhan Mantri Swanidhi. So Swanidhi means, if you translate in English, like it's your own fund. So here the government is supporting through financial institutions and banks, the street vendors, which constitute a majority of women. And around 45% of the beneficiaries under this Swanidhi scheme are also women. I am happy to share that India has developed the model of a very, very successful model. I think that can be replicated across the globe, I should say, which is the women self-help group. It is like turning out to be like a movement, which has been started as a very small endeavor. Now, currently, there are 100 million women members in these self-help groups, which are around 90 lakh or say 9 million women self-help groups are there, having 100 million members. And these members are not only transforming the rural landscape economically, but they have become a very successful pressure groups who are also influencing the decision making at the grassroots level. We have a system of Panchayati Raj institutions in which there are village and developmental block level organizations. And they are also participating in the political leadership development in a way. These are some of the very, very successful models of women's economic empowerment. We have so much to say on this topic, but because of time limitation, I'm limiting my speech to this. And I, at the end, reiterate the government of India's commitment to achieving the gender equality and working towards addressing the 12 critical areas of concern that have been articulated under the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. We are taking action in all the directions, but as the time comes, I will, if the time permits, then I will share more insights on other critical areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shankar, and we do hope that there will be time and space for that interactive discussions at the end. It was a very comprehensive progress reporting on your side. I took note in particular of the paradigm shift that you now have in your governance structure, the interministerial collaboration that takes place with respect to gender responsive budgeting, and the very impressive 200% increase in the budget, including some of the very promising initiatives, not only with the self-help groups, but also related to women's entrepreneurship. Thank you very much. Once again, this is some of the very promising practices that I'm sure that countries across Asia and the Pacific will be able to benefit from learning more about. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Sokotia Kulene, the Director of Gender Affairs Department at the Office of the Prime Minister in Tuvalu, who would like to share some of her country's progress with respect to women's economic empowerment. Sokotia Kulene, apologies, the floor is yours. I'm checking if we have Sokotia Kulene online. While we look for that, we are going to move to our final speaker on the thematic area of women's economic empowerment. Mr. Mohammed Arif from the Ministry of Human Rights, the Director of International Cooperation, Pakistan. We understand that you would like to share some information about the flagship program of the social safety net for the empowerment of women in Pakistan. Mr. Arif, please, the floor is yours. I think you are muted. May you kindly unmute your microphone?
Thank you, Ms. Kaikai. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for holding such a grateful, insightful session early in the morning. And secondly, accept my greetings from people of Pakistan and Government of Pakistan to all ESCAP colleagues. Again, it is a happy moment to share our experiences with all colleagues and listening their experiences and good practices. Yes, first of all, I would like to apprise the colleagues that Pakistan has focused on gender equality and women empowerment with the vigorous efforts. In this budget, it was mandatory for all ministries and departments to have their gender responsive budgeted, number one. And secondly, Prime Minister of Pakistan also announced a package called Women Empowerment Package that include 19 action points and including enhancing quota for women in the jobs, enhancing possibility of women in labor market, and enhancing their participation in board of governors of public listed companies. Along that, Government of Pakistan has also introduced certain projects like Women on Wheel to provide transportation facilities to the women. Now we come to the flagship program, Benazir Income Support Program. That is a very vibrant program introduced by Government of Pakistan. The Benazir Income Support Program is the largest social safety net that has played a crucial role in empowering women across the country. With more than 9.3 million women receiving financial assistance, Benazir Income Support Program is instrumental in driving financial inclusion, enhancing women's socio-economic participation, and promoting gender equality. If we look at the impact of this program has mainly impacted in 4 areas. The major area is financial inclusion and empowerment. This program has linked over 9.3 million women to banking services, promoting their financial inclusion by providing unconditional cash transfers to women from marginalized households. The program has increased access to financial products and enabled consumption smoothing, helping families to manage expenses such as food, nutrition, and healthcare. The unconditional cash transfer assistance program alone disburses around rupees 300 billion annually. The second area which has been impacted by this program that is improved decision making and political participation. According to third-party evaluations, approximately 67% of women have reported that Benazir Income Support Programs financial assistance has enhanced their role in household decision making. Moreover, the program has contributed to an increase in women's participation in the political process by encouraging the registration of women with computerized national identity cards. Because it is mandatory for every woman who is going to be benefited from this program, she must register herself with the our NADRA, which is primarily mandated to have the national ID card registration. So this empowerment allows them to vote and actively engage in local and national elections, fostering a culture of gender equality at the grassroots level. Third impact is on education, plus bringing the gender equality in the social areas. The Benazir Income Talimi Wazaif. This is a stipend based on education. Educational scholarships are granted to the deserving girls and women. This program is addressing gender disparities in education by providing gender differentiated scholarships to promote the education of girls. Presently, 9.7 million children are enrolled under this program, with 47% being girls. The conditional cash transfer approach has significantly improved school enrollment, retention, and graduation rates for girls, making strides in reducing the gender gap in education. Fourth one important aspect which has been impacted, that is health and nutrition. Benazir Nashonuma program, Nashonuma in Urdu means growth. The Benazir Nashonuma program targets malnutrition among pregnant and lactating mothers and children under 5. It focuses on combating stunting through therapeutic supplements and health awareness sessions at Benazir Income Support field offices. By promoting improved health and hygiene practices, the program is contributing to reducing infant mortality rates, maternal mortality, and malnutrition. The fifth important area is that it has impacted on national ID cards holding and access to services. The increased registration of women under Benazir Income Support Program has improved their access to essential services such as healthcare, education, and justice. Holding a CNIC is a vital marker of gender inclusion, allowing women to claim their legal rights, access to government services, and participate in formal economic activities. Keeping in view the importance of this program, this year, government has increased the budgetary allocation by 27%. Now it has been earmarked as 593 billion rupees for this year, for the budget of 24-25 years. So I believe that this program has drastically changes the lives of women, especially the rural women, which has been challenging for in the Asia region. I would say that financial inclusion of women is a great challenge almost in all South Asian countries. Secondly, their labor force participation is also a challenge. The programs like Benazir Income Support Program has the potential to impact the lives of women, especially the rural women, to bring them toward the national life and towards the development. Besides this program, another social safety program which has been started by government of Pakistan under the Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund. Other than these programs at small scales, we have small and medium entrepreneurs programs under the Prime Minister package. And currently our own ministry, I mean Ministry of Human Rights, is conducting awareness sessions and programs. And other intervention is the National Action Plan on Human Rights and Business and Human Rights, HBR. That is 5-year program which has been approved by the federal cabinet in 2021. Under that program, we are also targeting that women must be part of supply chain mechanism. They must be included at all level of business and entrepreneurial activities. Although we have certain challenges, but still the government of Pakistan is adamant to improve the lives of women, which makes almost half of the population of Pakistan. I would say that this is not an end in itself, but such programs are means to achieve the end, which is to bring women towards the national life and national development. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for these remarks. I couldn't agree more. It was a very comprehensive presentation and progress reporting on a host of initiatives that your government is carrying forward. Thank you very much for sharing this with us, and congratulations on all of the great progress made. In particular, I noted the reference to the Benazir Income Support Program, and I think it really demonstrated all the ways in which, when we have a very effective, large-scale investment on women's economic empowerment, a virtuous cycle is set in motion so that it increases opportunities for joining the formal labor market, for education, for financial digital literacy. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, for inspiration of all of the participants here today. Now we have concluded our presentations related to women's economic empowerment, and we will move into two presentations on women's political participation and representation. And here it is my pleasure firstly to introduce Bansrak Oyun from Mongolia. I can see we have a room full of delegates from Mongolia joining us today. Welcome to the meeting. We are looking forward to hearing more about what I believe is the election law amendment of 2023 and the implications that it has had for women's political participation and representation. Please, the floor is yours. And of course, if you may kindly stick as close as possible to the 5 minutes, we would also appreciate.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, good morning. So dear moderator and UN Women ESCAP and the country colleagues, thank you for extending the special invitation to participate this roundtable as a presenter and speaker. So let me introduce our officials from our ministry that are connected with you virtually. So first is Ms. Bayırma. She's the Director of Family Policy Department of our ministry. And also Ms. Mermur Sorun, Senior Specialist of the Integrated Policy Department, and Ms. Oyun, Consultant and Head of the Human-Centered Development NGO, Ms. Bolırma, Consultant. And me, my name is Huslen, and I'm the Head of the Foreign Relations and Cooperation Division of our ministry. So we believe this measure presents a significant step toward promoting women's political participation and looking forward to discussing its impact with this note. I'm forwarding my floor to our presenter, Ms. Oyun. So please take your floor. Over to you, Ms. Oyun.
Thank you, Ms. Husling, and thank you, moderator. So it's our pleasure to share our Mongolia's country experience on improving the political participation of women. So we are sharing, did we already share our presentation? Okay, yeah, so okay, so let me start my presentation with what was the challenge and problem. And so on the screen, you can see that according to the Global Gender Gap Index, Mongolia had a very stable indicators in terms of the health and education achievements. But however, our overall ranking was significantly lower due to the women's political participation. You can see the data, how we were ranked in the global index. Let me note that lastly in 2024, according to the index, we were the 120s. We were ranked 120s out of 143 countries. And also, according to the Inter-Parliamentary Union data 2024, Mongolia was ranked 129th out of 190 countries. So we were pretty bad. And if you look at our history, since 1990, when we started having parliamentary regime, and there were 8 parliamentary elections. But throughout this time, 608 MPs were elected, only 64 or 11% out of them were women. So the highest achievement was only the 17% of the total seats of the parliament we had. But we all know what was the cost. Of course, gender stereotype and cultural norms, and also the political financial aspect, which was the biggest hindrance for the women's political participation. And we had an election in June 2024. So in that, we were succeeded. That number of female MPs increased drastically from 13 to 32. And percentage of women in the parliament reached 25% fall. which was the highest in our history. In the graph, you can see. And also with this achievement, we were exceeded the regional average of Asia, which is 21.5, and also closely approached to the global average, which is 26.9% women in the parliament. And with this success, we were now ranked 96 out of 200 countries by the Interparliamentary Union. You can compare, we were 120 out of something, and now we are 96. So this is the big achievement for us. And, but of course, our aim, we wanted to achieve the 30% of the parliamentary seats, but reaching to that, it's already also a lot we have to be done. But okay, and to reach to that success, it didn't come just through. Mongolia had a long history and efforts. So firstly, we really passed several legislative acts to promote the balanced gender in the decision making. The first, our gender equality law was approved to 2011, which highlighted, which also sets the 30 to 40% of the quota for the women's participation. And also Mongolia is one of the early adopters of the SDG. And in 2020, Mongolian government also adopted long-term development vision 2050, and also and its action plan 21 to 2030. All these documents highlighted the importance of improving the women's political participation. And secondly, we also used the legislating gender quota was one of the very good mechanisms to achieve the balanced gender in the political institutions. First, we introduced the gender quota of 30% in 2005 in the long elections, but it was cancelled in December 2007 after only 2 years' time. And in 2011, we reintroduced the quota of 30%, but the approval was only the 20% quota. In 2015, again, we introduced the 30% quota, but it remained 20 approved. So the gender quota 20% was maintained up to the 2020 parliamentary elections. And, we had certain strategies used to improve the women's political participation. Firstly, of course, we really focused to strengthen the legislative framework. And secondly, we also focused on strengthening the women's network to expand and also increase the number of the potential women candidates. And also we focused on enhancing the awareness of the voters and also the officials who is really administering the election process. And as a result, we also able to share our good practices. And so May 2023, we did the constitutional reform. We amended our long election, parliamentary election, and it introduced several new features. First, we introduced the mix of majoritarian and proportional system, and also increased the size of the parliament members from 72 to 126. Out of them, 76 seats are elected by the multiple, non-transferable votes in 13 multi-member constituted, and 48 are with the closed list proportional representation at the national level. And with that, the candidate list used the zipper system and 1:1 gender quota for party lists. Also, the electoral threshold 4% for individual parties, 5% for two-party coalition, and 7% for coalitions of 3 or more parties. Lastly, we introduced a mandatory 30% candidate quota for women in the 2024 election. And in June 2023, the Parliament adopted this new law, and it has also some substantial changes, which included possibility of voting from abroad in the parliamentary session, which also was a very good provision, and it required increased gender representation and additional eligibility criteria and procedures for registration of parties and candidates, and also issue of public funding. Government declared this new reform is aimed to enhance parliamentary representation with a balanced representation, enhance participation of women in the parliament, strengthen the legislators' service to constituents, and balance the policy considerations between local and general issues related to the national development.
Thank you very much. It has been 10 minutes now. If you may most kindly wrap up your remarks.
Thank you. And law also gives the persons with disabilities the right to vote secretly and independently by providing the free accesses, and also to qualify the proportional seats. Parties must also have candidates running in at least half of the seats in each constituency. And so the voter turnout 50% required for the results. And June 2024 election is the first time Parliament was elected, high number, and also elected 25% of women. Okay, so these are our lessons learned. First, of course, the legislative reform was really played biggest role. Second, also there was a joint efforts of the government, civil society, and also the government leadership and support of the UN and development agencies played a crucial role. And so this is the lessons learned. Okay, so thank you so much. And the presentation will be shared, and for more details, you can ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the delegation from Mongolia for sharing this. I think there is two key takeaways from here. Number one, hard work and persistence really pays off. At the end, you took us through a very long journey that you have had looking into the best and most strategic ways of enhancing and increasing women's political participation through whole of government, whole of society approaches. And the second takeaway is really that quotas do work. Sometimes it is the kind of chairs that we need all to stand on to make sure that there is a further push towards equal representation politically as well. Congratulations on the 25% representation and on exceeding the Asia-Pacific average. It is great progress. Of course, we are still far from parity in most countries in Asia and the Pacific, but certainly the examples that you have shared, that persistence, that patience, that differentiated thresholds, that strategies involving both national initiatives such as the constitutional reforms and international initiatives, how all of this play together and over time creates the change that we are looking for. Thank you very much for sharing that, and I'm sure that we have many participants amongst us who are interested to learn more through this exchange today. But of course, there will also be opportunities to get together when we meet in Bangkok next month. We have one more speaker under this thematic area of political participation and representation. We are not sure whether Mukarram Nurmatova, the deputy chairperson from the Committee Family and Women Affairs of Uzbekistan, is online. If you are, you may kindly take the floor now and rename yourself for future interventions, please. If we don't have the delegate online at the moment, we will move to the third and final thematic area related to violence against women, where our first speaker, I am pleased to introduce Iresha Nishanti Damasina, who is the Director of Development for the Ministry of Women, Child Affairs and Social Empowerment in Sri Lanka. The floor is yours, Ms. Damasina. And thank you for limiting your remarks to just about 5 minutes if possible.
Dear moderator, distinguished participants, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share our insights, what Sri Lanka has made in terms of ensuring gender equity and women empowerment. Here I mostly emphasize on elimination of violence against women, what are the steps that Sri Lanka has taken. Actually, Sri Lanka submitted our review report after 10 years, so therefore there are a number of developments we have done. So I would like to restrict my presentation to the major initiatives we have done since the time is permitted. So the first of all, as you all know, the Sri Lanka had to face a multidimensional economic crisis in 2022. Somehow now Sri Lanka is witnessing the stabilization outcomes of the economic reforms and the revival of confidence internally and externally in the progress of the country. This is indeed a positive change towards accelerating gender equality and the empowerment of Sri Lanka. During the reporting period, government of Sri Lanka has entrusted rights of women and girls with formulation of national policies, acts, and national action plans, basically. The cabinet approved national policy on gender equality and women empowerment 2023, formulated by Ministry of Women Affairs, is a key development and a promising practice leading to the submission of the Women's Empowerment Act to Parliament and its approval in July 2024. The national policy on gender equality and women empowerment has 8 thematic areas that address key gender inequalities in Sri Lanka. The National Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Policy envisions a just society where the equality of women and men and gender minorities are upheld. All women, men, and gender minorities enjoy fundamental rights and freedoms. And both women, men, and gender minorities are able to realize their full potential and participate equally and equitably in the benefit from democracy and development, both in public and private life. The overarching focus of the policy is on non-discrimination and ensuring substantive equality as per CEDAW, and also include most areas as per the Beijing Platform for Action. In July 2024, the Parliament enacted the Women Empowerment Act, number 27 of 2024, giving endorsement for the establishment of the National Commission on Women. That is a recommendation from CEDAW as well. Then appointment of a women ombudsperson to ensure women's rights, and setting up a national fund for women, and implements the National Gender Equity and Women Empowerment Policy, which was formulated last year. This signals an important milestone in the history of Sri Lanka and significant step towards the realization of women's rights and empowerment of women. The principles enshrined in CEDAW on women's rights and non-discrimination is also incorporated in this landmark act. Another key promising practice is the formulation of sexual gender-based national action plan, following a review of the implementation of the first national action plan. The formulation and successfully operationalizing the cabinet-approved policy framework and first national plan of action to address sexual gender-based violence in Sri Lanka, which was formulated for 2016 to 2020. This has led to review of its implementation, which has informed the formulation of the second National Action Plan to address sexual gender-based violence. It is for 2024 to 2028. Led by the Ministry of Women, was approved by the Cabinet in July 2024. This signals another important practice where lessons learned and evidence informs the formulation of policy and action address SGBV in Sri Lanka. If I little bit elaborate of other progress made in terms of eliminating violence against women, there is expanding 1938 toll-free helpline, which was operate 25 hours all days, 365 days in 3 languages, basically in Sri Lanka. That earlier it was actually 8 hours, the office hours it was operated. Due to the COVID pandemic, the number of incidents reported was high. It was expanded to 24 hours operating status. And services for gender-based violence survivors have been actually expanded. Temporary shelters for the women who are victims of sexual gender-based violence have been established across the country, and some of them are administered in a private-public partnership model where civil society organizations support in this effort. One women's shelter among those are dedicated entirely for women with disabilities. Another development is Mituru PS, a special unit established in hospitals across the island, provide services for the victims of GBV. Moreover, free legal services are provided by Legal Aid Commission for the women survived from GBV. When it comes to in law amendments, the Protection of Victims of Crimes and Witness Act number 10 of 2023 was amended, including provisions to request for a female medical professional when medically examine a women faced SGBV. Due to advancement of technology usage for communication, online harassments have increased during the reporting period. More importantly, there was a need for a more strengthened legal protection for online digital harassments, which was addressed recently through approved of the Online Safety Act number 9 of 2024, which provides legal protection for digital harassment, including sharing of photos that were shared privately when in a relationship. There are cyber violence reporting and monitoring units established in women and child units in all police stations, where victims of cyber violence are able to lodge their complaints to seek redress. Those are the major developments or the steps taken by the Sri Lankan government to eliminate violence against women. So if you have any question, I may answer. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Masina, for sharing not only these important initiatives to eliminate violence against women, but also in particular, congratulations on what is just hot off the press, your Women's Empowerment Act from July this year. We wish you the best of luck in its implementation and congratulating you on its enactment. We had another speaker in this segment from Papua New Guinea. I am not sure whether Lalen Robert with the Department for Community Development and Religion is able to take the floor now. I had queried in the chat. Let me just see, Lalen Robert, are you online and would you like to deliver a presentation? If not, I would like to open the floor to all of our participants here today to, first of all, if there are any reactions to the presentations that already have been delivered, or if you would like to share some of the challenges, the priorities, the initiatives, the promising practices, the examples of collaboration, then this is a good time to do it now as it relates to the first thematic areas under discussion. I can see our representative from India has his hand raised. You may take the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and all the participants. Just would like to share 2-3 things quickly, which are, I think, the best practices from India in the field of political empowerment of women and tackling the gender-based violence. So, first of all, I would like to inform that in the last year, India has got a new parliament building, and we have also got very powerful legislation approved by the parliament in 2023 that is called the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. Actually, this is Nari Shakti is like women power, and Vandan means praising. So it provides for 1/3 reservation of seats for the women in the national parliament. We have the lower house of parliament, House of Representatives, Lok Sabha, where 1/3 seats would be reserved, and as well as we have the federal states where in the state legislative assembly there is a provision for 1/3 reservation of seats. And this will come into effect after the current this census exercise when it is finalized. This is built on a very strong foundation of Constitution's 72nd Amendment in 1992, which provided for 1/3 reservation of seats for women in the Panchayati Raj institutions. That I said in my opening remarks, that we have a Panchayati Raj system where we have a village level structure, then block development level structure, and then district level structures. So at those 3 levels, already there exists a provision of 1/3 reservation of seats. But I am happy to share that this percentage has now gone up to 46%. So we have almost 50% around women representing in those Panchayati Raj institutions up to the district level machinery. And they are actively, actually, this is our experience, that when this reservation was given, it was not very, people were skeptical how it will go and whether it will benefit the women at large. But now gradually we are realizing that these women are actually asserting the power, they are participating in the decision making in a very effective way. And there are several role models who have propelled from those grassroots levels to the national parliament also. So this is a very powerful model, and I hope that with the implementation of the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam in the next 3-4 years or 5 years, as the case may be, we will have a fairly good representation of women in national parliament as well. So follow the Mongolia's percentage of 25, maybe we also reach by in the next 5 years. And the next thing that I would like to highlight is the one-stop centers that have been set up across the country since April 2015. These one-stop centers are one-stop integrated centers which provide for 5 kinds of services, including the police facilitation, the psychosocial counseling, and the legal aid and counseling, temporary shelters, and medical aid to any woman who is facing any kind of violence or who are in distress. So this is a one-stop center where these services are provided in an integrated manner, and this is 100% funded by the central government. And we have 790 such centers across the country functional as on date. These centers have really helped the women in distress in a big way. And even the police is now relying upon the one-stop centers wherever they need help, need to help the women facing violence, particularly domestic violence cases, which of course, like any other country, India is also having the domestic violence cases a quite significant number. Another very good initiative is, just 1 second. So And another very good initiative is the women helpline, setting of women helpline. This is 181 short code number. And we have another helpline of emergency helpline is 112 that provides for emergency response to any person in the dire need of assistance like police or ambulance services and fire services. Now the women helpline and the emergency helpline both are integrated, and round the clock these are functional. These are functional through the mobile location tracking devices, and they locate the location of the caller and provide the assistance. So these two, three things are very, very powerful initiatives that have been taken in the last 1 decade. And I will conclude my remarks by saying that in education sector, India has made significant strides, and we have now almost at par the gross enrollment ratio of girls at all levels of education, including the higher education. And in STEM fields, I should say that 43% of the students are women and girls. So this is, I think, one of the highest percentages in the world. But of course, we are also facing challenges in getting these women graduates in STEM fields translated into the jobs and higher participation in the research and development fields, for which there are several schemes. I would not take much time because of time constraint. So these are some of the powerful initiatives.
No,
thank you,
indeed.
Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shankar. Indeed, powerful, very important initiatives that are very beneficial for our knowledge sharing and learning together here today. In particular, the one-stop centers, and 46% is almost as close to parity as it can get. In the very last segment of today's dialogue, we are going to have a presentation about the ministerial conference, including the modalities for intervention. And there are roundtables around both political participation and representation and gender-based violence, where we, of course, will invite everyone to make statements on behalf of their government so that we can continue this conversation and learn in more details about these very important ongoing initiatives. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Shankar. We are concluding the first segment now. Before we go into the next second segment related to the emerging, if you will, and cross-cutting issues of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, I think we are going to just take a 5-minute break for everyone just to get up and shake their body a little bit and get us into a listening mode once again. So let us meet back here. It's 27 past in Bangkok. At 11:32, we can come back to this meeting after a short break. Thank you very much once again for all the time and the commitment that you have put into joining our discussions today. See you in 5 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back after this brief break. Just to mention that we had a request from Ilaisane Tuitupu from the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Tonga to speak related to the previous segment. If you will permit, we will take your intervention at the end of this segment. You may raise your hand when the overview presentation and the other wise presentations have been completed. I'm sure there's going to be time at the end. So for the purposes of staying on schedule now, we will now commence the second session of today's program on advancing gender equality in the context of emerging and cross-cutting issues. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our colleague from ESCAP, Ms. Ting Ting Chen, as Social Affairs Officer, who will present on the key emerging and cross-cutting issues that has been found to affect gender equality in Asia and the Pacific as identified in the analytical review leading up to this conference in November on the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action at its 30th anniversary. Ms. Chen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shana. Just let me make sure you can hear me clearly, and I'm going to share some slides.
Yes,
please do let me know if you can see the slides.
Yeah, we can hear you well, and we can now see the slide, but not in presentation mode yet.
Here you go.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Shana. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I believe in the previous session, you have heard from my colleague, Jonas, about what we have found in terms of the biggest progress made and the major gaps as well as the future priorities we have identified for the future for the region going forward in order to advance gender equality and women's empowerment. So my presentation is going to share with you some more insights we've had related to emerging and cross-cutting issues that are also important to making further progress. Let me start with 3 megatrends we have identified to have significant relevance to the topic gender equality and women's empowerment. I think it's of no news that climate change and environmental crisis has disproportionate impact on women and girls in their health, their livelihoods, and also their ability to cope with disaster risk, for example. The root cause to such disproportionate impacts lies in how women and girls conduct their daily life, their work, and community activities differently from men, and the fact that women are rarely included in climate decision-making and action. The second megatrend is related to digital and technological transformation, which provides many promising solutions to education, economic participation, and social life, which also benefit women. However, women often bear disproportionate risks brought about by digital technologies too. For example, they're more likely to lose jobs, since many of them, especially women and girls living in low and lower middle income countries, are engaged in labor-intensive sectors and do not necessarily have the right skills to keep up with the digital transition. And they also face higher risk of gender-based violence that takes place in the digital space. The third megatrend we discussed extensively in the report is demographic shifts, especially population aging, which has become a trend for our region. On the one hand, older women are found to face inequalities in terms of access to healthcare and pension, for example. On the other hand, population aging is increasing the demand for care services, and working age women are often the ones who are most affected. So to help countries cope with these megatrends in their future actions to advance gender equality and women's empowerment, in the Beijing+30 regional report, which is the key outcome of the analytical review, we have proposed 3 sets of recommended actions in relation to 3 relevant key transitions. And these are the just transition, the digital transition, and the care economy. These recommendations look into ways we could tap into opportunities presented by these transitions for women's empowerment while tackling challenges they may pose. Next, I will walk you through some of the key recommendations, but for the time constraint, I won't be able to go into too much detail. please do look out for the Beijing+30 regional report, which will be released on November 19th. The strategies we propose for making the just transition gender responsive include two main dimensions. First, to empower women and girls in the just transition. How do we do that? It will require more equitable distribution of resources such as land, maritime, and other natural resources so that women can benefit equally from the green and blue economies. It also requires recognizing women's labor and knowledge in relevant sectors and support them to participate in the workforce, sector governance, and other decision-making processes in these sectors. The second dimension is to be aware that climate change increases unpaid care and domestic communal work that often falls on women's shoulders. Therefore, investment in sustainable infrastructure such as water, renewable energy, and so on needs to factor in how to address care burden and improve women's life and economic well-being. In the meantime, we also acknowledge that climate consequences such as natural resource scarcity and disasters could also increase communal conflicts and tensions, which required engagement of women to address. When it comes to digital transition, to tap into opportunities it brings about and also to tackle risks associated in this process, we have also proposed 3 sets of strategies. The first one is to set up legislative foundation and also corporate accountability frameworks that are both crucial for governing digital use and activities that take place in the digital space in order to tackle the risks associated or related to privacy, misuse of technology, discrimination, and gender-based violence online. Secondly, to empower women and girls with connectivity, skills, and access to digital public goods so that they can benefit equally from the digital transition. The third set of recommendation is related to the urgent need to establish global cooperation on digital governance and innovation, for which we emphasize the importance of including countries in the global south in the dialogues and cooperation, and also the importance of integrating gender and social inclusion considerations so that we can ensure no one is left behind in the digital transition. These proposed strategies and actions are very much in line with the recently adopted Global Digital Compacts. The third key transition, which I believe has already been touched upon before in this meeting, is investing in the care economy, which is another agenda of increasing importance to all of the countries. The strategies we proposed are aligned with ESCAP's model framework on the care economy, which proposes critical action for social protection schemes to compensate for unpaid care work and enable better access to care services, for building affordable and quality care services and decent care work, and also for gender-responsive employment or workplace measures to support caregiving, which is especially meaningful for women's empowerment in the labor markets. And lastly, to integrate care considerations into sustainable infrastructure investment, which is meant to reduce the care burden as well. To implement these well, it requires not only care-related data, financing, or policies that transform the way how care responsibilities are distributed within the household and between women and men. It also requires a society-wide paradigm shift to acknowledge care as a public rather than a private responsibility. Another set of cost-cutting issues that we've identified as important to women's empowerment and gender equality across the board concern gender norms, gender data gaps, financing, and partnership. I think most of us are more or less familiar with the critical gender data gaps, financing gaps, and partnership challenges, but may or may not know exactly how gender norms have evolved in our region. So I would like to spare a couple of more lines on this. This is based on data consolidated by UNDP, and ESCAP and the report drafting team analyzed how the norms and perceptions related to gender have evolved in ESCAP member and associate members. The data graphs are a little hard to read, I think. Apologies for that. But what we found is that when we monitor perception change between 2014 and 2022, that's what the data would support, related to notions and perceptions. For example, whether it's acceptable to beat your wife, whether women can be political leader and business leader equally as men, whether having a job and having university education are equally important for women and for men. When we unfortunately found that there is barely any change since 2014. Many of these bias and perceptions are also common to both women and men in our region. It's becoming better in some of the countries, as you can see on some of these data graphs, but it's getting worse in some other countries. These perceptions and bias have profound impact on not only behaviors and decision-making at the individual level and within the household, it also has a lot of impact on decision-making, planning, and action at the broader society and in the economy. Therefore, transforming them is critical. And this has to be done through deliberate norm-changing efforts in our education systems, in the media, including social media, but also needs to be addressed through policy incentives and laws. For example, parental leave benefits that can be shared by both parents would incentivize women and men to more equally share childcare responsibilities and reduce discrimination against women in labor markets. This is, of course, just one of the examples, and there are many more good practices we have introduced in the regional report. But of course, all of the good practices, including the parental leave benefits, for example, there has to be very careful and deliberate gender considerations integrated into the policy design and the implementation in order for them to work well for norm changing. Many of us are also very much aware of the critical data gap to measure SDG indicators, especially those related to gender and leave no one behind. And the COVID-19 pandemic has added challenges to that due to disruption in data collection and reduced capacity for many countries to do so. The strategies we recommend countries to take include prioritizing data action to filling data and evidence gaps in critical and emerging issues such as care, digital, and climate change in relation to gender implications. While on traditional areas like women's political participation, it is also important for countries and the national statistics officers to consider collecting and generating data that not only monitor representation, for example, the share of parliamentary seats held by women, but also to capture how well and how much influence women leaders have exercised. For emerging areas like climate and digital technologies, standardizing methodologies and data practices is still something to be done. The data gap concerns not only sex disaggregation, but disaggregated data in general, without which we won't be able to understand the specific needs and situations of different population groups, which is increasingly important for prioritization of policy interventions and actions. And last but not the least, to create the demand for using data in public and private sectors. Without demand, the motivation to generate data will always be limited. As for financing gaps for gender equality, let me bring attention to one particular finding from the global Beijing+30 survey. Among all of the Asia-Pacific governments, 88% governments who have responded to the survey, 88% have a national strategy on gender equality, but less than 45% have a costed financing plan for the implementation of such national strategy. I think that speaks a lot about the financing gap we're facing. And 21 governments reported they had introduced austerity measures in the past 5 years. but very few countries consider the potential impact of these austerity measures on gender-related goals and objectives. Therefore, in the report, we have recommended countries to institutionalize gender-responsive budgeting on the one hand, which is to ensure a clear and gender-responsive resource allocation mechanism within the government core sectors, and on the other hand, proactively explore other mechanisms and financing instruments to diversify the sources of financing. I'm not going into the detail of each of these recommendations here, but there is more for you to explore in the report once it's released. Last but not the least, the partnership not only needs to be multi-stakeholder, it also needs to target more specific areas of priority that suits the national and local context. We emphasize the importance for partnership and collaboration to focus on subregions and groups of countries where the development of gender equality and women's empowerment is facing particular challenges. I think I will pause here, hand over to Shanna, and see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ting Ting, for this really comprehensive presentation on new and emerging issues, some of them cutting across and some of them not previously conceived at the time of the drafting of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action in 1995. It has been a monumental task to put all of this analysis together, and this very synthesized presentation really brings out some of the key issues for our discussions today, but will of course also be released in the form of a much longer, more comprehensive report at the Ministerial Conference in November. So now we are opening the floor for any questions or commentary on the presentation. First of all, on the transitions, the just transition, the digital transition, the care economy as emerging themes, but also on the various cross-cutting issues around social norms, around data, partnership, so on and so forth. We also have a number of presenters who are standing by to deliver their presentations, and I think that this sets a very good scene for our discussions going forward. So for now, thank you very much, Ms. Chen, for this very useful context-setting presentation. We can now go into the second segment of, the second part of this segment. We have some presenters already who wish to speak on the care economy, on digitalization, and also more broadly on the national review process and various implementation progress and challenges. We have about 45 minutes for this segment until we move to the third and final briefing related to the Ministerial Conference itself. So first of all, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Wien Sengfal, who is the Deputy Director General of the Gender Equality and Economic Development Department at the Ministry of Women's Affairs in Cambodia. Good morning, Davin. It's very nice to see you here. We're looking forward to your presentation. I understand we will learn more about recent national investments in care infrastructure and other exciting initiatives on the part of Cambodia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizer, and especially ESCAP, for organizing this roundtable discussion today, and also give the opportunity to the Ministry of Women Affairs Cambodia to share our progress, challenge, and initiative in addressing the emerging and cross-cutting issue, including the care economy. So now I would like to share our progress and initiative on the care economy topic. As you may know that women contribute significantly to unpaid care work worldwide, including tasks such as child care, elderly care, and household chores. So Cambodian women also face difficulty and social norm on gender relation, including unpaid care work and the burden of family care, often place caregiving and responsibility on women, continue to constrain development of women potential and women empowerment in the economic, social, public, and political life. there is a need for policy reform and support care infrastructure and promote gender equality. So Cambodia put a strong effort to promote gender equality and women empowerment through a whole government and society approach. Women are recognized as the backbone of Cambodia, society and economy. The commitment to upholding leaving no one behind principle and gender equality. I also would like to highlight some progress that Cambodia have been achieved related to care economy, including unpaid care work. In 2020, the Ministry of Women Affairs initiated public dialogue and raised awareness about unpaid care and domestic work. This initiative responds to the increased workload that women shoulder during the COVID-19 pandemic, highlighting the issue of unpaid care labor. In 2021, under the support from ESCAP, the Ministry of Women Affairs worked with key line ministry to map existing policy intervention and identify additional options and action to promote the care economy. This initiative sought to enhance high-level engagement and elevate the 5R framework for unpaid care and domestic work. This exercise includes a study involving 200 women entrepreneurs to examine how unpaid care work is distributed at the household level and its effect on their entrepreneurial activities. In 2022, we built our internal capacity and key actors from the line ministry on the care economy and gender transformative social protection. This effort aims to strengthen and enhance gender expertise, aligning for 4 care-sensitive policy categories, including care infrastructure, care-related social protection, care services, and employment-related care policy. Development partners such as ESCAP, Oxfam, UNDP, World Bank, ILO, and DFAT also engage to mobilize technical support related to this matter. Also, we also have the publication on valuing and investing in unpaid care and domestic work, Cambodia case study that has been released and is available on the regional hub at ESCAP website. We also share our experience and best practice on the care-related topic at the regional and also incorporate the care economy agenda into the ASEAN Declaration on Women Entrepreneurship Development during Cambodia was the ASEAN Chairmanship in 2022. In 2024, the Prime Minister urged the Ministry of Labor and Vocational Training in collaboration with the Ministry of Women Affairs and also the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport to explore establishing childcare facility near garment factory and also community preschool. MOVA also launched a guideline for childcare facility establishment in public institutions. There are now 4 line ministries that establish childcare and breastfeeding facility in their institution, and there will be more to go. For the regional collaboration and partnership that can address gender equality issue effectively, we can give some initiative that share resources and knowledge that country can share best practice and data on gender equality enhancing strategy across the region. Secondly, capacity building and training. Joint training program can empower women with skill need in emerging sector, fostering economic participation. Also funding and support network that partnership can pool resources, offering financial support and expanding the reach of initiative focused on gender equality. For our ongoing and next priority action, our current government pentagonal strategy phase 1 has reaffirmed our commitment to promote gender equality through strengthening citizenship within a highly civilized, ethical, equitable, and inclusive society, placing women at its core. Our recent Neri Ratana 6, that is our 5-year strategic plan on promoting gender equality and women empowerment introduced a gender transformative approach, with the care economy being one of our key priorities. To leverage our ongoing effort and in aligning the 4 care-sensitive policy categories that I have mentioned earlier, we are now finalizing the National Care Economy Framework and Action Plan. This national roadmap will aim to promote care legal and policy framework to guide care economy initiative, strengthen data and evidence to inform policy decision and program intervention. That now we are ongoing conducted economic analysis and household care survey, and to understand care economic impact and redefine care within the family. The third, transform public commitment and support about the value of care work and garner public support for care economy initiative. And fourth, increase public investment and private partnership to support care infrastructure and services. So these initiatives are part of our gender transformative approach in Cambodia. We also focus on gender responsive budgeting, monitoring and evaluation framework, and also mindset transformation to promote accountability across public and private sector. This is all from Cambodia, especially Ministry of Women Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Singfal, for all of these very important contributions to our dialogue today. You just mentioned in passing at the end on the mindset transformation. I think that ties in very nicely to the cross-cutting issues around social norms and some of the deep-seated ways in which we need to address such issues. But also, congratulations for the work on the care economy. We have been proud to support it at ESCAP. I think the Ministry of Women's Affairs in Cambodia have been at the forefront of strategically positioning the care economy left, right, and center, including in the strategic plan that you were referring to, but also in efforts going forward, a truly whole of government, whole of society approach. And I am sure that there are many participants in this meeting who will be interested to know more about these efforts, and hopefully we will connect not only through this meeting, but also in Bangkok in November.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny.
And we have one more speaker on digitalization. Aminath Avika Rashid is the Senior Social Protection Officer with the Ministry of Social and Family Development of the Maldives. Ms. Rashid, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me well.
We can hear you well, yes.
For organizing this meeting and allowing us to share insights and exchange knowledge and experience, and for offering us the opportunity to speak as well. I will just provide some context. When it comes to the Maldives, digitalization has been a great tool in advancing gender equality and bridging gaps, because the Maldives is heavily dispersed geographically. So we have over 180 islands spread across 20 atolls. So there are a lot of challenges in accessing services, and this does manifest in terms of gender differences as well. For example, education prior to COVID-19 has mostly been through physical schools, and people would have to travel from small populated islands to schools. So with the COVID-19 paradigm shift, we have increased digitalization, which has helped bridge the gender gap in education. For example, we managed to establish satellite schools, and we have dispersed over 70,000 devices for students to use to engage in online learning. So that has helped girls, especially who may not have been able to physically attend school, to be able to access education, especially at the higher levels, for example, secondary education. And with COVID-19, there's also been an increase in efforts to increase connectivity across the entire country. This has manifested in a number of programs and an effort to make the internet more accessible and affordable. So in 2021, there was a government-led initiative in partnership with the internet service providers, which led to a decrease in the internet prices up to 30%. So with this in mind, women who live in rural islands, especially considering that there are a great number of women compared to men in rural areas, this has increased their connectivity as well and access and also broaden their access to e-commerce, for example. So entrepreneurship opportunities have also increased as a result of digitalization. And there have been concerted efforts to broaden connectivity. So in partnership with SARC from their funding, we have conducted a program, Community e-Center project from 2016 to 2022, which has focused on the most disconnected islands, the rural islands especially, to increase connectivity. And this has had a far-reaching impact in terms of increased service accessibility again. And I also want to mention that when the digitalization through education program was initiated, there also is a mechanism to ensure that digital tools are not misused to perpetrate violence. So there's a mechanism in place to ensure online safety of girls as well. Not just girls, but all who use these devices. So we are keeping in mind the dangers that comes with increasing digitalization and embedding these mechanisms in place to prevent gender-based violence, for example. And in addition to that, we have also launched a lot of advocacy programs, especially with the new Education Act. There's a lot of shifts that are coming in place. STEM education, for example, there's a great focus on introducing technology-related education and making sure that girls are also interested and we don't conform to the gender norms, which sort of guide that sort of feels more towards boys. So we have noted an increase in girls who are interested in such programs. And one such initiative that the major internet service providers and the ministry, the relevant ministry does is they work with an NGO titled Women in Tech. And they conduct a program called Girls to Code, which is aimed at mostly young girls aged 16 to 20. So it focuses on coding language and sort of creating an interest in the technological field and allowing them to learn these skills so that they can use them and hopefully enter the profession as well. And such initiatives have been also conducted at high level. We have a lot of advocacy programs last year in conjunction with International Women's Day, which was the theme of it was tied to the digitalization. So we had launched, the Ministry of Technology had launched an online platform which showcased a number of women who are engaged in the technological profession and highlighting their contributions. So it's a great way for women and girls interested in this field to see role models and see what the aspirations are in this career. So, and we have had also partnerships with corporate entities. For example, Dirago, which is the state-owned enterprise, which mostly provides the communication services in the country. They have engaged in a lot of corporate social responsibility programs. For example, the Girls to Code program. And also they have launched a gender action plan. And this is a quite publicized action plan. So we are very inspired to see large corporations as well taking the initiative and sort of inviting more women into the field and establishing more gender responsive workplaces in the technological field as well. So I also want to highlight that we also work with UN agencies. For example, the UN APC-ICT, we have engaged with them last year as well to conduct an e-commerce training for women entrepreneurs, and over 30 women training. And this is just the first iteration of this program. So we are hoping to continue the program across the country, and hopefully more women will be trained and skilled and able to access more opportunities in this field and use digital tools. And we're very excited to see what's to come. And I also want to highlight that building on top of these achievements already. We are very committed to further investing in women in this field. So this current government, which came into being last year, late last year, in the manifesto, we have an embedded pledge within the chapter dedicated to women. We have a national scheme titled Women in Technology. So this will focus on investing in the advancement of women in the technological and digitalization fields, education and training programs for them, and also increasing entrepreneurship opportunities in this field as well. So these are all building on things we have already laid the foundation for, but we are very, very excited and hopeful that this will inspire a lot of progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rashid. Yes, excited and hopeful, and I think indeed also very proud of all of the progress that you have made. Congratulations on integrating it, and a very good and indeed a promising practice related to a whole chapter on women in technology. It's a very effective way, as I heard from your description, to bridge the gender digital divide and promote women's participation in the information and communications technology sectors through advocacy, through corporate initiatives, specialized training programs, and community-focused projects. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, and congratulations on the progress made on these initiatives. We are going to move on to our next speaker, who has asked now to speak more broadly about the progress in implementing the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and some of the associated challenges and opportunities. And so our first speaker under this segment is Eunice Akiwo, who is the Director of the Ministry of State from Palau. Eunice Akiwo, please, the floor is yours. We had confirmation earlier that Ms. Akiwo was online, but as I don't see, yes, I have seen you, Eunice. Please, you are invited to take the floor.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you faintly.
Okay. So
yes,
we
can hear you well.
So for Palau's participation, first, I would like to thank ESCAP for making this preparatory work in convening possible, and for including Palau's participation, and as well as hosting this afternoon roundtable. Thank you. So for Palau participation, the guiding questions under session 2 is pretty much what I used to guide my presentation this afternoon. So I'm just going to speak a little bit from each of the topic under the guiding questions. So I'll start off with climate and environmental crisis. So for us in Palau, we continue to experience more frequent and adverse weather, as well as temperature increase. And it continues to pose climate and environmental challenges. And so some of the progress that we're doing on the ground is continuing to look at and ensuring access to the science and adaptation measures and the technology and advancement to lessen our dependency on petrol. And so that we can strengthen local livelihoods and resilience to the climate issues that we continue to face. As for digitalization, we continue to also face and realize increase in technology facilitated harms and crimes. And in facing these challenges, we find ourselves lacking in holistic laws and regulations to build a digital resiliency throughout our communities, especially the vulnerable population. And so progressing on that, we've worked to establish a working group to address digital resiliency, or to build and strengthen digital resiliency has been formalized. And so we continue to seek assistance in looking at laws and regulations that's adequate for Palau. As for care and health services, Palau's population is facing migration towards the northern part of the island, and it's including possible relocation of our hospital from the existing location between the population to the northern part of the island. And what just concerns us is the critical health services delivery. It might get disrupted, and because it has to shift to accommodate the movement of migration of people as well as the relocation of hospital. So we're concerned about operationalizing this movement. The shift in service delivery might cause some people to be left behind or fall between the cracks of government service delivery. So that's our concern on that. As for gender-based violence, we continue to face that gender-based violence, of course. So one of our major progress is we're in the process of building some kind of shelter that can adequately house all relevant services, expert, and maybe a safe house that can temporarily shelter those that are in need until they get adequate time and support to address the case and the situation they're in. So that's a big, just highlighting some of the big progress that Palau, or challenges that Palau is facing. That's one of our biggest progress that we're facing is designing and building and equipping that shelter to fit our need. Okay, as for the leadership and political representation, we realized that we lack the voice and engagement of youth in leadership and political arena. And facing that, we're encouraging and attempting to develop and invest in mentoringship programs with a Chetsi lens that can help build capacity and confidence for our youth, young women, and women population, including disability, especially disability in those living in remote areas, so that they can have equitable exchange, dialogue, and voice in this leadership and political arena. So that's one of the big activity that we're facing, or some investment for the youth that we're facing or working towards. And then just to share with everybody, Palau is facing its national election, political election, this coming November 5th. And this November 5th, we'll be looking to fill 33 political seats at the national level. And there are more than 18 females in this election. And so we're hoping that after November 5 of next month, we'll have more women representation at all level of political representation at the national level. So yes, that's my short and intervention and participation for this roundtable. And again, thank you. from all these experience and presentation before me is such eye-opening. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Akibo, for this overview of many of the issues of the critical areas as contained in the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. We were talking about the climate and the environment, digital resilience, gender-based violence, the care economy, leadership and political representation, and we noted your upcoming elections next month as well. We are very grateful for your sharing this succinct overview of some of the issues and challenges that you currently are facing in Palau. In the next presentation, we are going to hear from representative of Tonga, Ilai Sane Tuitupu, who is from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, a Deputy CEO of the Women's Affairs and Gender Equality Division. Ms. Akibu, you had requested to speak on Tonga's overall national review and had also requested the floor in the previous section of this meeting. So you are welcome to do both now. We will be lenient on the 5-minute time allocation.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you well, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Maloi Lele, and on the offset, may I extend our sincere thank you for allowing us to share our experience with this agreement. I also want to apologize because there might be problems with the connection. It's heavily raining here in Tonga. So if there's something wrong, I apologize in advance. The network is not really properly during this weather conditions. Malolele once again, colleagues and delegations. For over 3 decades now, we have discussed how the biggest existential threat to security of our Pacific people is climate change, and how this crisis disproportionately impacts women and girls. Here in the Pacific, we have lived and continue to live the reality of climate change. Climate change disasters and their impacts continue to be our biggest threats, which causes poverty and leads to increased gender inequality. Climate change and disasters have affected crops production, contributing to food insecurity. In addition, shifting rainfall patterns and salinity intrusions significantly impact access to clean and safe water for consumption. These changes pose a threat to our natural surrounding, to our financial stability, and our social unity, and we therefore must handle this crisis with the necessary urgency. We are therefore duty-bound to champion climate justice in the Pacific, has been committed to ensure that those primarily responsible for greenhouse gas emissions are held to account and contribute their fair portion to efforts in mitigating and adapting to climate change. This involves advocating for increased availability of climate funds, sharing of technology, and support for capacity building projects, and ensuring that climate finance should also consider a special allocations of fund from the Loss and Damage Fund for SIDS. The climate finance architecture should include financial assistance for loss and damage, ensuring compensation for those who have already experienced an impact of climate change. This is about climate justice, recognizing that those who have had the least role in causing the issue are the ones suffering the most from its consequences. We have advocating for multilateral development banks and international financial institutions to prioritize climate finance and simplify their procedures for easier access. Priority on not only adaptation but also resilience is crucial, as significant funding for initiatives that strengthen our ability to withstand climate-related effects. The government of Tonga has and continues to take a strong stance. Tonga joined other countries in the region and submitted on the 15th of March 2024 a written statement to the International Court of Justice outlining the devastating consequences of climate change on our land, people and future generations. The statement stresses Tonga's priority for climate change, given the impact we face at a national level and at a local and individual levels. We drew the Court's attention to the impact of climate change on our land, sea, people, economy, and the impact which Tonga's future generation will encounter. However, our fight for climate justice goes way beyond legal actions. We recognize the crucial role of women in building resilience. I want to emphasize the importance of empowering our communities and with particular attention on women, children, and other vulnerable groups. This involves including them in decision-making process, increasing public awareness about climate risk, and promoting a culture of sustainability. Building knowledge and empowering individual and supporting community-driven efforts are crucial in developing resilience and well-informed communities that can successfully navigate and prosper in a changing climate. Chair, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tutuku, for this overview of the national review process in Tonga, and in particular on the climate justice, the quest for a green and a just transition, and some of the strategies that you propose in this regard with regard to the sharing of technology and the climate funding. It was very appreciated to have this angle as well, covering one of the identified cross-cutting issues for the upcoming ministerial conference. Thank you very much once again. We really appreciate this sharing of reflections, of knowledge, and of the challenges and opportunities on the road ahead. Now we have the final speaker on the program. After this, we will go into a short interactive discussion. If there are any other participants who wish to take the floor to share their experiences or to react to some of the presentations already delivered. And then we will go into our final segment with some briefings around the ministerial conference. Without further ado, our final speaker for today's program is Fakou Sadat Fatemi, the Director General of the International Relations Office of the Vice Presidency for Women and Family Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Please, Fakou Sadat Fatemi, you have the floor. I can see you are online, but you are currently muted. And we can, yes, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hello, and I thank you to give chance me to participate to this roundtable.
Thank you very much. You may proceed with your intervention, please.
Yes. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and respect. In today's world, achieving economic and social development necessitates the active participation of all members of society. Women, who represent half of our human and intellectual capital, are crucial to sustainable development. Their involvement is essential for fostering justice and transparency. The Islamic Republic of Iran has actively sought to empower women through national policies that align with our religious and cultural values, as highlighted in Principles 10, 20, and 21 of our Constitution, which emphasize the importance of family, individuals' equality, and women's rights. The 7th five-year development plan in its 16th season prioritizes strengthening the family unit and eliminating barriers to women's growth requiring all government agencies to align their programs with the promotion of women's rights. Thanks to these policies, the literacy rate among women aged 10 to 49 has reached approximately 98%, significantly reaching the gender gap in education. More than 60% of new university entrants are female, showcasing women's vital contribution in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields have a notable in these areas prepare a good fundamental for communication technology, highlights their scientific capabilities and key role in scientific development and innovation. Despite sanctions impacting resources access, Iranian women have excelled in scientific and innovative sectors, with 24% of the inventor community comprising women. Also, they manage 24% of strategic technology laboratories, demonstrating their leadership in scientific research. The COVID-19 pandemic and international sanctions have not hindered women's progress. Instead, they have thrived in innovation. The resilient generation has turned challenges into opportunities for empowerment. In the digital economy, with 94% of Iranians have internet access, women are increasingly participating in virtual markets and technology-based ventures, further enhancing their entrepreneurial endeavors. Government initiatives to create job opportunities for women, especially in technology, have produced positive outcomes, with female CEOs playing crucial roles in economic advancements. We believe that capable, informed women are fundamental to community progress. Their representation in government reflects commitment to women's participation in decision-making. In this era, there are 4 women in the government of Islamic Republic of Iran, and 14 women are the members of the parliament. That highlights the importance of women's roles at high level of management and policy making. Despite the challenges posed by sanctions, Iran has made significant strides in empowering women, achieving notable advancements in education and technology. On the other hand, it is crucial for us to strengthening the family, and it remains a priority for ensuring social vitality. Iranian women are at forefront of this progress, contributing to resilience of society. In conclusion, peace is the cornerstone of all communities. As we discuss women's empowerment, we remember the countless victims of violence in Palestine and Lebanon. Advocating for global peace is essential our collective efforts can create a meaningful impact. Iran calls for urgent international support for oppressed women and children, reaffirming our responsibility to champion their rights. We aspire to a world where all women, especially youth and girls, enjoy equal rights and opportunities to shape a better future. Thank you for your attention and presence.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fatemi, for sharing with us your reflections and your progress related to gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls in your country within the context of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action review at the 30th anniversary. That is very appreciated. I am sure that the participants were able to take note of your intervention, and this is the kind of forum that we now have together for learning and for sharing good practices. So thank you very much once again for your contributions. Thank you. We have reached 1:30 now, and so to preserve the integrity of our program, all participants here have had a significant investment in time today for this virtual roundtable. We will not be opening the floor for any further interventions under this segment. We are going to move into session 3 now to allow ample time for a presentation, a briefing on the upcoming ministerial conference, and also for questions and answers. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our ESCAP colleague, Ms. Jessica Murphy, a Social Affairs Officer with us, who will present on the preparations for the ministerial conference that we are convening in Bangkok next month from the 19th to the 21st of November. Ms. Murphy, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Shanae. Can you just confirm you can hear me?
I can hear you well.
Great. Unfortunately, my camera has stopped working in the last few hours, so I won't be able to turn it on, and Zoom is freezing for me right now. So just please let me have a minute to open up my presentation. Or perhaps could my other ESCAP colleagues open the presentation for me because it's still frozen.
Jessica, you may go ahead and start your presentation. I'm sharing my screen just now.
Thank you so much, Shanae. So as Shanae is pulling it up, as Shanae mentioned, I'm Jessica Murphy, an Associate Social Affairs Officer with ESCAP. And as you all are very familiar with the background of the Beijing+30 review at this point, I'm just going to focus my presentation on some of the key basics and then also actions that governments can take to prepare for the ministerial conference in the coming weeks. So as a reminder, the overall objectives of the ministerial conference are to assess progress in implementing the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action in the past 5 years, to review current challenges, good practices, lessons learned, and priority actions required to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of women, and to provide a platform for member states and stakeholders to explore policy options and strategies, validate regional inputs to the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, which will focus on the review and appraisal of the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Sorry, because Shanae, are you sharing the screen? My Zoom is completely frozen.
I hope participants now can see the provisional agenda.
Okay, great. So as you can see, the provisional agenda, following the opening of the conference, there will be a session focused on the review of the progress made towards the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and priorities for accelerated action in Asia and the Pacific. And so this agenda item will open with a high-level panel discussion, and then the floor will be open for country statements and statements from other participants. There will then be 4 roundtable discussions focused on the proposed themes listed here, covering advancing women's economic empowerment through employment, decent work, social protection, and entrepreneurship, strengthening women's participation and leadership in Asia and the Pacific, sustainable strategies for responding to and preventing violence against women and girls in an era of uncertainty, and accelerated gender equality through gender transformative actions that bridge divides and smoothen key transitions. And the conference will end with other matters in the adoption of the report of the conference. Please note that the full chair summary will be shared by the end of the week following the conference. For the tentative program, the first 2 days of the program consist of morning and afternoon sessions with lunchtime side events and a reception after day 1 and additional side events after day 2. And day 3 consists of 2 sessions of side events and a special event on care, followed by the adoption of the report and closing. And I'll go into a bit more details on those special and side events shortly. As a reminder for the background documents, we've already discussed a lot of information on the analytical track for the Beijing 30 review today in our previous sessions, but I would just like to encourage governments to review the 2 background documents on the review of the status of the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and priorities for accelerated action in Asia and the Pacific, and the results of national reviews reported by member states on the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. These documents are available now online, and so we would encourage you to review them before the conference. Then for our special event and side events, in addition to the conference plenary sessions, we also encourage you to join these additional events. This special event on day 3 will focus on the 2024 Asia-Pacific Care Champions and is co-organized by ESCAP and UN Women. The event will provide a platform for showcasing excellence, sharing innovation and good practices, and reinforcing the commitment of stakeholders to building robust and equitable care systems across Asia and the Pacific. We also have 25 side events that will take place during the conference with a variety of co-organizers from governments, UN entities, international organizations, and civil society. So all representatives who are registered for the ministerial conference are welcome to attend all of these events. And we also have a separate registration available on DECO for those who are not participating in the conference for whatever reason, to allow them to participate in side events. On the registration, thank you to all of the governments who have already submitted your letters of credentials and completed the INDICO registrations. For those
Jess, we have lost your sound. I am unable to see if Jessica is still in the call because I'm screen sharing. I apologize to participants. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, all right. Okay, so what Jessica was about to talk about here is the registration modalities for member states, government representatives to please take note of the upcoming deadline on the 21st of October. I believe that is Monday next week. To submit the letter of credentials, one letter, even if there are more than one ministry or government body involved and engaged in the delegation. Please submit one letter of credentials with everybody's, all delegates' information by Monday. There is no limit in the size for delegations, and we're also encouraging the inclusion in the letter of credentials from civil society organizations as well. And by that same date, once we have received your letter of credentials, please make sure that the INDICO registration is also complete. The INDICO registration is a software that we use here at the United Nations Conference Center to register your participation, and it enables the printing of badges for your easy access to the meeting. So please do complete the registration as well by 21st of October. If Jessica is in the meeting, may you just unmute yourself and you can take over the presentation. Otherwise, I will continue to talk about the statements. You have already received in your capacity as national focal points for this Beijing+30 review process correspondence related to submitting speaker requests for delivering statements under agenda items 2 and 3 by the 11th of November. So you still have a couple of weeks, and it's just 1 week ahead of the conference. Once you have submitted these forms, they will be when received in chronological order, and you will be then called upon to speak during the various agenda items. So let's just look at agenda item 2 and the time allocation therein. We already know from our virtual roundtable today that a 5-minute allocation of time goes very fast, but so does 4 and 3 minutes, and this is really the very strict timelines that the chair of the ministerial conference will reinforce. For heads of government delegations, 4 minutes. For delegations at ministerial level, 5 minutes. For delegates from other organizations, 3 minutes for agenda item 2. And for agenda item 3, all representatives will have 3 minutes to speak. So this concluded the overview presentation on the briefing of the ministerial conference. You can see here the event webpage. You are welcome to contact us directly, of course. And also, just before we open the floor for questions and answers on this segment, may you please take a moment to scan the QR code on the right-hand side of the screen. This will take you to an evaluation form that shouldn't take more than 5 minutes or so to complete. It is very important for us and our ability to improve our processes and future meetings if we may have your honest feedback on the virtual roundtable today. We hope, of course, that you will be able to provide us with some constructive commentary and suggestions for the future. So I'm going to let the QR codes stay for a little while longer. And we are going to open the floor now and invite participants. So 2 minutes more, if you may kindly scan and complete the evaluation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And we are going to open the floor now for any questions that you may have. Maybe we could look at the questions in the order that it was currently presented. So first of all, are there anyone who have questions with respect to the overall objective structure and format of the conference? Let me see if I can put. So on the overall structure of the conference here, we have one question from Dr. Mohammed Arif, representative of Pakistan. Please, you are invited to take the floor.
Thank you. My question is regarding delegation. As you mentioned in the presentation that the deadline for letter of credential is 21st of this month. So our nomination of our delegation is under process, and I would seek more time to forward the nominations of the delegations and, of course, the registration on Indigo. Is it possible, please?
Yes, I think I have my colleague Jessica Murphy back in the meeting now. I will turn the microphone to her, Jess, if you wish.
Sorry?
I am trying to see if my colleague Jessica is in the meeting. She appears to be here. The question is related to whether there could be any extension of the registration deadline on 21st of October. So I think we would regret that we have to park the answer to this question until Jessica comes back into the meeting. I am not in a comfortable position to respond, but I'm sure that it would be possible to have a couple of days extension. We understand the exigencies of government, of course. So I think for now, if it is just a matter of a couple of days, that is fine. If it is more than a couple of days, please do get in touch with the Secretariat so that we can plan accordingly. So thank you very much for that question. And I don't see any other raised hands at the moment. So I'm going to go back to sharing the slides here. This was on the overall conference structure and the provisional agenda. And so as I had mentioned earlier throughout the meeting, even if we were not able to hear from all participants and to the greatest extent possible and the various progress, the challenges, the opportunities that this review represents, you can see that under each of these roundtables we have already discussed today, there will be opportunities for country statements under each of these roundtables. And so I am going to check if there are anyone else who wish to ask any questions related to this slide.
Shanae, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you now, Jessica. Welcome back in.
I'm sorry for my technical difficulties. Just to respond on the question for the extension of the INDICO and letters of credentials, we can offer some flexibility to slightly extend the deadline, but we would kindly request the all governments to please do submit those letters of credential and the INDICO registration as soon as you can, because even after you submit it, sometimes there's questions or issues where things don't quite line up. So we still need time to be able to follow up with you before preparing the badges and everything else. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that, Jessica. I'm just moving through the slides here to see if there's anyone who had questions on the tentative program. We have a question from our representative from Japan, who is wondering when the draft of the chair summary will be introduced, Jessica.
Yes, so the draft of the chair summary will be shared by the end of the week following the conference.
So, but it will be shared by the end of the week following the following week after the conference, the response. And of course, you are welcome to also send your questions through in the chat box, as was just the case. You're also welcome to raise your hands. So we are moving just to the next slide here. And this was an encouragement for you to review the background documents to the conference. We had shared the link to the event webpage. We encourage you to check back often for updates on this website. All of the most recent information will be posted there. Then, of course, special events and side events. We are checking now for any questions related to this slide. Any commentary? If not, we are going to move forward to the registration process. We already had one query here. I think it seems that our correspondence has reached well and that there is no further issues for clarification on the statements and the time limits for those. I see no further comments or raised hands, which then leads me to, in my role as moderator for this meeting, to bring it to a close a little bit early. For some of us here in Bangkok, it is lunch hour. I wish to thank all of you from waking up early in the morning to spending your afternoon with us across the ESCAP time zones. We hope that you have found this virtual roundtable a very interactive and engaging exchange of good practices, of reflections on progress, on sharing opportunities and challenges for the future as well, and how we in partnership can move together forward on advancing gender equality and the empowerment of women and old girls. We were very pleased to see the attraction by national focal points for the Beijing+30 review process and the number of participants that we have had in this meeting. It was extremely useful for us to hear some of your reflections and summaries on your national review processes, and in particular where great progress has been made, but also where we still need to work together to do more to move the needle forward on gender equality. We have touched upon some of the main key issues and challenges related to women's economic empowerment, to their political participation and representation, to violence against women, and also on the emerging and cross-cutting issues on the digital, the green, the caring economies, as well as the need for data, for addressing social gender norms, for partnership building, and so on and so forth. So I think we have touched many key issues. There are more, of course, that we are exploring, both through the publication of the synthesis report, but also through our discussions on the upcoming ministerial conference. And we are looking forward to seeing you in Bangkok in person very soon. We wish you a good rest of the morning, a good afternoon, a good evening. We hope that you will take the opportunity that this meeting closing 7 minutes before time to complete the evaluation for our improvement of future meetings. Please do get in touch with us at the Secretariat. We stand ready to support your participation. We stand ready to address any queries that you may have. We are looking forward to engaging with you not only on the occasion of this ministerial conference, but also going forward towards the endpoint of the 2030 agenda and to operationalizing the post-2030 agenda, including the Pact for the Future that was recently adopted in New York. I thank you all very much once again, and I wish you a good rest of the day. And to many of you, see you in Bangkok in November.